And empathy deals with your ability to actually feel the emotions of the one you're empathizing with. And sympathy is simply a thought or a verbalization of how you feel. Like, I feel sorry for you. I'm sorry that this happened. That kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the thing. You can have empathy for someone who has cancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's everyone says, okay, we can have empathy for someone who lost a relative due to some tragic event. However, when we look at someone like R. Kelly, we can have empathy for the children that he molested. But it's difficult for us to express empathy for him. However, it is necessary. When I look at things of that nature through my eyes, I see a despicable, repulsive, reprehensible individual. When I look at it through my eye, I see a representation of 250 years of disrespect for the African woman coming to an end. When I look at the children through my eye, I see children being molested, and as a result of that molestation, or a result of the rape, or however you want to term it, I see them as being a part of that because people are more empathetic with children than they are with adults.
True.
It is my contention that even though African males also disrespect the African woman, they did it based upon what they have been taught for just shy of 250 years, slavery in this country. The disrespect that is expressed towards the African woman from the African male is a learned behavior. And the disrespect from the Caucasian perspective, male, is seeing that African female as a breeder or a source of pleasure. And the African male has bought into that to a great degree. So what I see with this whole debacle or this whole thing with R. Kelly is a bringing an end to this disrespect, this age of disrespect for the African woman. Now, and the reason I say that is because a disrespected womb will be barren if that womb rejects that disrespect. If that womb buys into being disrespected, then it will only produce negative things that are self-destructive, like the embracing of the idea of being called a bitch. It lowers the self-esteem. It lowers the idea of self-worth when a woman buys into that. Without understanding that the word bitch or the word son of a bitch, those words come from slavery. Mm-hmm. And the males were called sons of, so that's where the word comes from. So it, regardless of what you say about it, the root of it is negative, so there is no endearing part about it at all. Like the word nigger, there is nothing endearing about that at all, because the root of it is negative. The root of it is based upon a belief that there are a group of people who are inferior to everyone else on earth, because the inferiority complex that the Caucasian male has sold to the African is not just that it is inferior to the Caucasian. Caucasians feel like the African is inferior to everyone on earth. Now, the illusion of this idea of race came into play in policy or law in the 1600s when colonial law was first written. Why is it that I feel that it is so imperative that the African woman embrace the respect or demanded the respect? Why is it that I feel that the male must also demand respect on the basis of, before that African female? Why do I feel that? Because there can be no change if there is no respect for the womb that brings everything to fruition. What am I saying? I'm saying that until the African woman is respected, there will be no sense of change, or there will be no sense of balance in the earth. The African woman is like a power plant. If we believe that all humans came from the womb of Africa, then that womb of Africa, which is represented by that African woman, is a power plant. If you look at a power plant, you see cables leaving that power plant going to a substation. And from this, and at that substation, the power that comes in is stepped down so it can go further into other wires that steps it down again when it gets to a transformer that brings it into your house and into your power box, and your breakers step it down again so you can use it. So if you take that power plant and see it as that African woman, then the power and authority that the African woman, the African womb, I should say, the African womb represents is, if you can see that, then you begin to see the different races in the earth, you begin to see a step down. You see where I'm coming from? The disrespect from the disrespect for the African coming from the Caucasian does not include all that in the middle, all the different people in the middle. It goes straight to the African. However, after it disrespects the African, then it begins to degrade based on race. There's a gradation of inferiority that's perpetuated. So what I'm saying is that it is time for that African womb to be embraced as the power station that brings everything, that brings all life into this earth realm. Without, if that power source exerted itself all at once, it will explode the end game. For example, the power came straight from the power plant to this building, it would destroy the building. So the authority of that female has been degraded. Now it must be built up again. And that building up is seen in the respect that is being demanded. Now, mind you, again, what R. Kelly's alleged did is despicable. There's no question about that. However, it has gotten the attention of the whole world. And the whole idea the black girl, the black woman has not been respected. But now the attention is there. Sometimes it takes going to an extreme in order to bring about a listening ear. This is not the first time that he's done that. He's been doing it for years. However, it is time, this is the right time for it to be brought to the public ear and the public eye. Why? Because at this point, people are open to respecting the African womb or the African woman, which means that this is opportunity for the authority of that womb to be exerted in the earth. Now, we have seen examples of that recently. We saw the Me Too movement. Started by an African woman. We saw African women defeat a Republican in Alabama. We have seen, we saw an African woman actually win the Georgia State governorship, but was denied it. So now, the other part of that is the African male has actually begun to exert authority as well. And I saw that when I saw who swore McMaster in. There's an African man who gave the oath of office to the governor. South Carolina is the epicenter for slavery and disrespect because it is the most brutal means of slavery were actually taught in the state or emanated from the state. So what I'm saying is that it is extremely necessary for us to not only embrace what we see, but also be not afraid to be expressive of what we see, and we cannot be deterred by the attitudes of Caucasians saying, I'm not racist. Because if you're not racist, you don't have to say it. The idea of racism begins with prejudice, then discrimination. Racism is the codifying of attitudes that discriminate based upon prejudice. The only way that attitudes that are racist can be put into law, you must have the authority to do it. The power and the authority to do that. With that understanding, no one, we cannot as a people be racist because we have no power and no authority to codify anything that's going to implement a policy of inferiority toward a race of people. Can you see that?
Yes.
So any question about that or comments?
I have a question. It's at a season now where people are seeing the healing of the African womb, right? It doesn't mean that they have to be knowingly aware of that.
Okay, you're right. That's what I meant when I said that because of what R. Kelly did,
Right.
people are open to receiving now.
Okay.
See, when we put things in the macro, it is received. Keep in mind that you don't necessarily have to have a huge light for that light to be seen in the midst of darkness. See, when you are the light in the midst of darkness, you don't see the light. You see the darkness. And And sometimes it can be frightening to people who don't understand, or it can be disconcerting, or it can lead to having no hope, because all you see is is the darkness, and you think that because all you see is darkness, the only thing that exists is darkness. So we have no hope. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So now, when we look at that in conjunction with this governmental shutdown, we see that it was necessary, because it is indicative of a selfish government or a selfish system that is being dismantled. And the dismantling of the system is being done because of racism. The racist desire for a wall has resulted in these people being furloughed. So it's based upon racism. So anything that's built upon an unstable foundation can't stand. And this is what we are beginning to see. I also believe that on January the 21st, when the lunar eclipse takes place and the supermoon that we see, there will be a huge release of feminine energy into the earth, directed at the African womb. Any questions?
The purpose
Comments?
of that release of energy will be, or we don't say what it is, we let it form itself?
We don't say what it is. Now,
Okay.
we see, this is the beauty of it all is that you don't shape anything. Let it shape itself. The beauty of it all is you don't have to have political power to be expressive of spiritual power. The great